Hey guys, it's Awesome by the way, and today we're looking at the Sick in the Mud achievement in 2 Point Hospital. I found this achievement quite difficult to do. I had to attempt it about 3 or 4 times and try to figure out the best method of trying to make enough money to make it through those waves when you don't have enough patients getting treated and paying you. In particular, wave 6 at the very start is actually quite difficult to do. I found that I was running out of money while I was trying to treat these patients. So the way I've combated from then onwards all the way to the end now is make sure that you have 3 research centres all researching the different monetary method. Fill up each place with as many researchers as you can. I chose about 3 max per research centre. And then as they become available, train up those researchers to the max that they can be. That means you get a consistent 20k each month, and then 35k every month and a half, and 45k every 2 months. I found that having all those research centres managed to offset any expenses between rounds, and I was actually slowly making money. As you can tell, I had 2.4 mil at this stage. There is also one round in particular, I think is it round 12, where you only have 20 patients, but each patient is worth like 40 something K. At the very early stages, the researchers were actually allowing me to make a profit so I could continually train all of my specializations, but then later on, it was only just offsetting all my expenses. I also found that you need to kind of add 1 GP office each round because you're continually getting a few more patients each time. So make sure you're always training enough GPs to have in reserve as well so that you can just keep adding GP rooms without them not being filled up. I would say the importance of training would be the researchers first, then the GPs, and then diagnostics as well. I found all of these ways are very heavily dependent on diagnostics, so very important that you keep up with the amount of nurses getting trained in that as well. I think I started off with 1 or 2 diagnostic rooms and then 1 or 2 cardiac rooms, and then slowly increased 1 for 1 every 3 to 4 rounds. To make it more efficient, I probably should have built 2 different wards of smaller sizes as well, and have maybe 2 nurses each ward, 1 for diagnostics, 1 for treatment. Then for a long time I didn't know that you needed kind of 1 nurse per traction bed, that they only utilise 1 at a time. So I had a fracture clinic that had 4 traction beds, but only 2 were getting utilised, and I still had a backlog of fracture clinic patients. At the start, slowly start adding nurses to the fracture clinic. So I would say start off with 1 and then add another one maybe 5 waves later, and then another one 5 waves later again. Otherwise, you're going to be waiting for patients to be treated towards the end of the waves, and usually it's the fracture clinic that's holding it up. In terms of the amount of janitors you need, I'd kind of keep an eye on if there's anything popping up that needs attending to. Usually if something's popping up, like notifying you that something's not being done, you usually need another janitor at that stage, because then it's kind of stating the obvious that you don't have enough janitors to meet the requirements of the area at the moment. Now the most important waves to be wary of is round 6, 12 and 18, and those are the ones that you actually get the gold stars on. I remember round 6 being quite difficult because you have to have lots of those wash pits as well as the danger zone. For the rounds where you need to increase your hospital attractiveness, I tend to use the Horatio statue. If you are using your researcher method like I am, you should have enough money to be able to just chuck them all down in the areas where there's big wide spaces so that the green area that it affects is wider. Now I don't want to talk for the entirety of the whole video, so I'll put in the description below the areas where I start talking about the specific rounds of 6, 12 and 18, so you can click on the timeline and jump straight to them.
closed, fed, and ready to go. I loosened my shoulder the day before to focus my craft. I take extensive notes on a shorthand on my own devising. It will shrink them and find the remains. I find it's important to have your own creative process. Are we running out of coffee? Or are we running out of time? Some people share work before they share love, and people live work together. We certainly haven't seen anything like before. It's something really very special, and that's rare. That is special. That is really.
Now, if I remember correctly, I think round 5 had about 50 or 60 patients, and then round 6 jumps up to 100 patients. So for round 6 in particular, at low level, you should have a minimum of 4 receptionists. If the patients don't get processed fast enough, they're going to leave because they get hungry and tired. Just keep an eye on your staff, and if any staff go on a break, just take them off break and chuck them back into the reception pod until they finish processing everyone. I would also recommend having 3 diagnostic rooms and 3 cardiac rooms. That means you need a minimum of 6 nurses with diagnostics. Up to that point, I was just slowly gathering diagnostic nurses, so I had a minimum of 7 at that point. It's always good to have one in reserve in case one goes on a break. If you have your rooms fully improved with gold awards like I tend to use, you shouldn't have to worry about nurses going on breaks too often, so just having one to replace any that go on a break should be more than enough. Also important to make sure that all your diagnostic equipment is fully upgraded, because all those high tier patients require high diagnostic levels in order to go through to their treatment, so just make sure that they're fully upgraded so that the diagnostic percentage is a lot higher than usual. Then for those sort of waves where they have certain patients or certain treatment skills requirements, I tend to take nurses away from, for example, wards and make them able to go and treat or diagnose patients for just that round in particular. So if you're like me and train nurses in certain areas, go into your assignment tab and just move nurses that have not been utilised for that particular round into whatever area needs more attention. So for example, like I said, wards into diagnostic or treatment, and they should hopefully leave those ward areas and go straight to the area that you need.
If you ask me, abundance of Stevens balance with his treatment for wonky ankle syndrome, the procedure involves transplanting the foot of an athlete to the patient, because knows what their treatment for athlete's foot might be.
I found round 12 not too difficult. It's pretty standard and easy to do. It's kind of like any other round. So it states you need to train a bunch of people, so if you don't have enough people to train because you've been training them really well, like I tend to do, I would just hire a bunch of people that have training opportunities, quickly train them in something dumb like motivation, and then just fire them straight after. In theory, you shouldn't struggle too much to find people to train. So for round 12, it says you have to cure people with banging headache, so that requires the injection room. So once again, just move all your resources from ward, for example, build a bunch more injection rooms and treat those patients.
On 2 Point Radio. This is 2 Point Radio, and I'm Harrison Wolf. If you tuned in by mistake, you might as well stick around and listen. Save your change the station. I want you to look at your radio. Really, look at it. Now, pick it up. Feel the weight in your hand. Open a window. Now, I want you to throw the radio out hard as you can, because music deserves to be free. Now go to your nearest radio repair shop. But you probably didn't hear that.
Now, as you can tell from this video, I actually struggled with round 18 a little bit. I ended up having to repeat it twice. Luckily, with those research centres, I was able to offset those costs, even though my money was slowly dropping. Worst case scenario, if I had to repeat a third time, I probably would have survived, but it would have been very, very close. I had never reached this wave before, so what I found straight away during that first wave was that the diagnostics was holding them up. There were too many people to diagnose, so I ended up having to build about 2 or 3 extra cardiac and diagnostic rooms. There is a wide variety of patients in this round in particular, so you still need some of your ward nurses to be working in the ward to be able to treat them, but I also told about 75% of my ward nurses to go work in the diagnostics as well as the treatment rooms. As you can see, I built about 10 wash pits, so each room should cater to 4.5 patients, which is plenty. But as you can probably tell, you need to make sure that they're getting through the GPs and through the diagnostic rooms fast enough to get to your treatment rooms, otherwise they're going to end up dying. So just make sure that you're keeping up with your research. If you're quite confident you're going to win that round, you can possibly fire all your front of house staff so that you're not paying their wages unnecessarily. If need be, you could sell some of your GPs and stuff like that in order to make sure that you still have enough money to get through the rest of the round. I felt fairly confident, so I didn't end up doing that myself. I could see that my money was kind of offsetting any expenses at that time, so I didn't end up bothering firing too many people. And there we go, guys. That's the Sick in the Mud achievement in 2 Point Hospital. Hope all these tips and tricks really helped you. Good luck and congratulations once you have the achievement.